Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Pizza and Property. This is your weekly sliced edition. It is now 2023. I hope you guys have seen in the new year in spectacular style and had fun with friends and family, and of course, a little bit of pizza to celebrate. But we're going to kick off the new year with the first slice actually answering a question that no one's asking. Bear with me. It sounds crazy, and maybe it is, but I want to know, is Darwin dead for property investing? I've now recorded something like 300 plus episodes, and I don't think I've had one investor once ever say like, oh, Darwin, that is the spot. That is where I made my money. That's where I'm going to make my money. So I wanted to talk with an investor about why. Is this just the way that it is? Or is Darwin maybe the underdog that's about to show some fantastic signs for growth? To find out the answer to that question, we're going to be talking with Tim Brown from the Charleston Group, a very successful young man that's already built his own multi-million-dollar portfolio. And he's going to be answering the question, is Darwin dead? Like property-wise, that is. Let's jump into the episode right now with Tim Brown. Tim, how are you, man?
Good, thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good, man. Well, I wanted to jump into this one with you because I think it's something that normally it's like hot topic. Everyone's talking about it. Let's get some professional opinion. But this is more like there's crickets. No one's talking about it. And I want to find out why. So if I could just jump straight into the first question, Tim, in your professional opinion as a buyer's agent, why don't property investors seem to talk about Darwin?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's two main reasons for that. Firstly, because the performance and the growth probably hasn't been as strong as other places. And on the back of that, the second reason is because there's been great opportunities elsewhere throughout the country, just all these different positions and places that you can invest in that have seen phenomenal results. And I think it's drowned out any opportunity that Darwin may present.
Okay, so basically not that good a growth that it's actually presented, plus better opportunities elsewhere. So it's not necessarily that Darwin is dead. It's just more of a, well, it's dormant. Is that kind of like in comparison?
Yeah, I think Darwin probably hasn't performed as well as other states and other cities, right? And there's a lot of evidence for that. And people have been flocking to other places, particularly Brisbane and Adelaide and now particularly Perth, because the opportunities presented there have been really great and results have been really good. So, for instance, like the growth in some Darwin cities has been sometimes only 20 or 30% in 10 years, which is quite low. And it turns people away. All
right. Well, then what would have to change for, and like the points that you've just made there about better opportunities elsewhere, about the low growth rates, what would you need to see as a signal to go, oh, actually, wait a second, there could be something here now?
Potentially that's happening now. The history of Darwin has been slow, but we're seeing vacancy rates come down to as low as 1% as of October 2022. So that's presenting opportunity for people, and people are potentially looking for that yield, that cash flow that some of those properties are presenting, and the affordability price, particularly with the interest rates rising, people have been getting in. But we still have a high renter to owner ratio. Some cities is looking at 40 to 50%, some suburbs, whereas you should be seeing lower than 30% because that's where you get that real owner-occupier drive, which drives up those prices, particularly with high income earners coming in. But we see a lot of transient workers in Darwin, such as oil riggers and mining and defense personnel as well. So it's quite difficult to navigate the risks of a higher renting market there.
So I'm kind of hearing when it becomes more of a destination to really plant the seeds, that's one of the things that's going to be a key driver. Whereas right now it sounds like it's just a destination to kind of go for a little while and then maybe go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's what I believe, because you got to see a lot of want to go into that place to live, that real appeal, that scarcity, that owner-occupier appeal that's going to drive up those prices. And it's just not there at the moment. It's quite a rural place. It is a rural place. It's difficult to get to. It can be expensive. And as I said, transient workers moving in and out. There's not really people bedding in there for the long term. But there are slowly things changing, but it depends whether that's going to create a real opportunity for people or not.
Okay, well, considering that it's got some of the highest rental yields on offer in the country right now, what would you say to any property investors that have seen these and maybe want to balance out a portfolio, considering interest rates are just going up and up every month? Is there anything that you would have as some words of wisdom for them?
I think the biggest thing to take away from that would be understanding your bigger picture, whether that yield is really going to serve you in your portfolio building. And it depends what stage you're at. I really think it's a personal decision based on where you're at. If you're an investor with quite a good portfolio, a foundation portfolio already, you may consider pushing into a higher risk market like that to get some yields, get some cash flow to help with portfolio. But if you're just starting out, I would definitely steer away just because of the opportunity costs that it may have from going into Darwin, where there's plenty of markets that are other capital cities that are producing much better results. And you can still find good yields in other cities. So So it's definitely about assessing whether it's right for you as an individual and your current circumstances.
So trying to surmise what you've said here, Tim, is it more a case of Darwin's not necessarily dead, but there's other places that are doing better?
I think that's the absolute message. You can find opportunity anywhere in any market, I believe. It becomes assessing the risk of, okay, how small is that opportunity? And am I positioned enough to take that risk to get into it? So there are things going on for Darwin that people may be attracted to. There's $2.5 billion of infrastructure coming in, the roads and logistic hubs and marine infrastructure. The affordability is good, and it's good to diversify your portfolio. But if it's going to cost you by going into that market and somewhere else that it could produce better results for you, then it's probably not worth the risk.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like that's actually given a pretty good answer as to why no one's really talking about Darwin. But Tim Brown from the Charleston Group, thank you so much for jumping on the show.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate you having me on as always.
I'm just looking down at my notes here. And realistically, like the big takeaway that I got from that is kind of like I was just surmising beforehand. It's like, no, it's not dead, but there's just better opportunities elsewhere. It's like it's just sleeping or it's in a coma or however you want to describe it. But to actually completely write it off and go like it's never going to be an opportunity, that's just a silly statement. But to say right now it's the land of opportunity, probably equally a silly statement. And that's really what it comes back to, I find, in property investing, is it's not about having absolute love for one thing, one place, one strategy, one whatever. It's about looking at what actually works, what matches the fundamentals of investing and what matches the time that you are doing it as well. Like once upon a time, Darwin was actually the most expensive median house price, I'm pretty sure, like in the country. What was that, in like 2006, 2007, something like that? Like there was a time where Darwin was just the horse that you wanted to back for, I don't know why I use a gambling reference. I hate gambling, but you know what I mean? But now is not that time. But guys, that is enough from me today. My name is Todd Sloan. I hope your 2023 is kicking off with a bang. You are listening to the Pizza and Property Podcast. And as always, have yourself an amazing rest of the week and stay awesome.